Another glorious day in Botswana, and we're ready for another heat of the always glorious World's Strongest Man. Morning, neighbours. For the last 8 years, this competition's been all about two men, really. Big Z and even bigger Brian Shaw. This year, though, that could be all about to change because of a certain Mr. Beast.
All his life, he's faced a legion of doubters. Each year they grow in number, disbelieving the man's word that one day he will rise above them all and will be crowned the strongest on the planet. Eddie Hall is a one-man army on his own personal war, and he won't let anything stand in his way, not even the history books. For 24 years, Britons have tried and failed in the battle for the world's strongest man title. Hall came close last year when he suffered an injury. He fought through the blood and pain to become the third most powerful human. The doubters feed his ambition. When the clusters of cynics grow and multiply and say, "You can't, you won't," Hall remains standing and undeterred. Facing the Britain's battle cry in the fight for qualification are 5 men, including the Polish star Mateusz Kiełkowski. His debut last year shook the strongman scene to its core, and he's back, more experienced and stronger. It's now Eddie Hall against the world. Let battle commence.
Excellent. Well, Magnus v. Magnusson. Eddie Hall managed third last year without the use of 2 of his fingers. Now that he's been digitally restored, if you will, can he really topple Brian Shaw?
Well, Eddie Hall looks fitter this year, so he's one of the favourites to win.
OK, he has certainly slimmed down, hasn't he? It does look like being a tough group that he's got to get through here. You've got the likes of Kiełkowski, who's a terrific presser.
Well, he's a really good strongman. Only downfall is the deadlift.
Elsewhere in the group, there's Double D, Derek De Vaugn, and a man you know very well, Ari Gunnarsson.
Well, Ari Gunnarsson, he's going to give those guys a run for their money.
Excellent. Well, I'm sure Eddie's going to do that and more. Let's get straight away on to Event 1.
And bringing us the action in downtown Gaborone are Colin Bryce and first up, Danny Wallace.
Thanks, James. So the load and drag in this Heat 4. What a lineup. What a lineup. And they don't get eased in easily with this one. This is a hard event. 75 seconds. First of all, to carry 2 sacks, 110 kilos each. But then a mining cart drag, 310 kilograms, up against the friction of those bricks. Doesn't seem to be daunting Derek De Vaugn of the USA. Nornami, nicknamed Tsunami, largely based on his surname. And Van Staden from South Africa. Big fans there. So they're off, Colin.
3 experienced men here. De Vaugn, probably the most likely to do well. He's the biggest of all of them. And of course, we've seen bulk helps in this kind of drag event. Oh, Gerhard Van Staden almost limping there back to grab that second sack. I hope he's all right. Now, these 2 men. Nami in the middle, the Estonian. Double D, Derek De Vaugn from Indiana, USA on the far side there.
De Vaughn's been a strong man for 10 years. He's 39.
He's been a farm hand and weightlifter for another 15 on top of that. So he certainly knows how to handle weights.
Van Staden, the Walrus of Love. 2-time Africa's strongest man. Actually owns an animal sanctuary.
Yes, and he's pulling himself into the lead here. It's almost a bodyweight contest, this, in many ways. Van Staden's probably outweighing De Vaugn by about 20 pounds, and he's got him by a foot, or has he? 8 seconds to go.
Well, these bricks are unforgiving. They are porous.
This is going to be so tight. One more pull.
Well, was that relief or was that frustration? A bit of both. Well, no one completed it. Van Staden did get the furthest, 8 meters and 3 centimeters.
I mean, we've seen this task is almost impossible to finish. Hafthor Bjornsson, the only man in another heat who's done it so far, and he's a true giant. Devon there slipping over. Footwear, really important to get right in this, especially as you fatigue.
Well, here's Gunnarsson from Iceland. Amazing showing this year from Iceland. And here he is, Eddie the Beast Hall. All eyes on Britain's strongest man. And Kieliszkowski. Such a great showing last year from the Pole.
The Polish wonder kid, as he gets called, he is just so dynamic.
So fast.
Extraordinary, he's like a gazelle. I mean, that's, you know, the size of a very, very big man, a heavyweight boxer, and he just chucks it up and jogs with it. It's extraordinary.
The size of a very, very big man. Oh, here we go. It's the speed that always sets him apart for me, Kieliszkowski.
Now, this is where the beast comes into his own. He might look like a short man, Eddie Hall, but he's actually 6'3". He's just nearly 190 kilos of dense muscle, and that should put him in good stead here. But Gunnarsson, using those big guns of his to pull it along, he's got a bit of a different technique.
Well, Gunnarsson slightly ahead. Kieliszkowski keeping his eye on Hall, I notice. And now just a battle between the Icelander and the Brit, with the Icelander ahead. The Pole's given up.
Yeah, he's almost walked off in a huff there, angry at himself. That's a foolish thing to do, because he could have eclipsed some of the guys who went in the previous group. That'll cost him a lot of points. Who's going to get this one?
8:03 to beat. And we will see how close Gunnarsson came. Eddie Hall doesn't know when to give up, does he?
Selective hearing. Oh, that's disappointing for Eddie and Kieliszkowski. I mean, they were the two big favourites.
Well, 8-6-1, Colin, meaning Gunnarsson wins the load and drag.
Well, they set this drag up as an almost impossible challenge to finish. He came a metre and a half shy of doing it in the end, Gunnarsson. And he's certainly matured and improved a lot since last year.
A cracking start from the Icelander. Gunnarsson picks up 6 points and looks like he's going to be hard to stop. Van Staden and Devon placing second and third. Eddie Hall in fourth, with a surprising last place for Kieliszkowski. Welcome back to beautiful Botswana. Our first challenge saw Ari Gunnarsson taking maximum points and Eddie Hall way down in fourth. Time now, though, for one of Eddie's best events. Over to Colin and Danny.
Thanks, James. Yes, he'll be looking forward to this one. The log lift. Very simple. How many times can you lift this log? 158 kilos. 75 seconds is all you have. Here's who's had a go. Well, Nami managed 2 reps, putting him ahead of America's Devon, who managed 1. And up next, South Africa's Van Staden. So Van Staden, second place after the first event.
Representing Iceland, Ari.
Up against Gunnarsson. This will be an interesting showdown. And they're off.
2 big presses here. And these are 2 big logs, 158 kilograms. That's a serious weight just for one. Gunnarsson stabilizes it and gets it overhead, and Van Staden matches. A minute to go.
Real look of concentration on Van Staden's face there. So they've only got 2 to beat. Can't help but feel this will be a reasonably high-scoring round.
Yes, though both men quite particular in their movements at the moment, going quite slowly. I think they're trying to get the max out of the 75 seconds. Van Staden!
Didn't lock out. Yeah, absolutely. But Gunnarsson now with a chance to press ahead. Manages 3.
I mean, you can understand Gunnarsson struggling with the heat, but Van Staden, of course, from South Africa, you'd expect him to be a bit more used to it. Looks like he's just feeling a bit faint at the top of the movement. Now, Gunnarsson for 4.
Really starting to struggle, but forces it through, manages 4. And Staden, I'm surprised, concedes.
Something's not right. Well, the Icelander, 4 reps, that's very impressive.
So Gunnarsson is the leader in the log lift. Still 2 athletes to go. Van Staden ties for 3rd, only 1 rep.
And that was one of his best events. That's disappointing.
Man in the hat's confused.
Representing Great Britain,
This is the one, though. Eddie Hall loves this event.
So too does the man he's up against, though. They might look different physiques, but this guy's unbelievable at log.
As you said, Colin, wisely earlier, he is the size of a very big man. Here we go, though.
So Eddie Hall outweighs Kieliszkowski by a large amount, and he'll do his movement entirely differently, but Kieliszkowski's so explosive with his legs. It's more like a javelin thrower against a power lifter.
What I always notice about Kieliszkowski, he's always keeping his eye on the guy he's up against. Very competitive, very speedy. Takes his cue from his competitors.
I mean, look at Hall, he looks so steady under that. Once it's to the shoulders, just leans back. First time he's used his legs just a little bit. 5 reps, he's in the lead. He wants to stay one ahead of Kieliszkowski now, I think.
Eddie really using his chest as well. Balancing that log for a second. Pushing it up, locking out, that's 6.
Kieliszkowski's going to match him. Is he going to do one more then, Eddie? Kieliszkowski might do one more as well. He looks fitter.
Well, here we go. This is where his competitive spirit really kicks in. He doesn't just want to match Eddie. He wants Eddie to stop. No more time in it, though.
Eddie won't have enjoyed that. He was pushed harder than he wanted to be, and he only got a draw.
7 reps apiece. Incredibly impressive. A nice bit of sportsmanship as well. Eddie knows that was good. So time for first place. Britain's Eddie Hall and Poland's Kieliszkowski. And they're knackered.
A massive win there for two men who really needed it. Eddie and Mateusz, 7 reps each. Ari Gunnarsson, the only athlete who came close with 4. Now that keeps the Icelanders still in first place, the only automatic qualifying spot this year, but Eddie Hall has leapt up to 2nd overall now, 1.5 points behind him. Bus pull is next, and Sarah Jane is there with a massively outsized object, and the bus.
Thank you very much, James. Right now it's time for the iconic vehicle pull, man versus this 15-ton bus. Magnus is with me right now. What toll does this take on our athletes, Magnus?
Well, this is an overall body test. And with your adrenaline going and how hard it is, that sometimes you throw up afterwards.
What? Wow, that is hardcore. Now, Eddie Hall, our Brit Hope, is in 2nd position right now. How well do you think he's going to do?
Well, I'm sure Eddie is going to go for a win here. He needs it, get the points. He's got the strength and he's got the body weight to help him along.
Well, it's going to be Beast versus the bus. I'm really looking forward to that. But before we get into it, it's all about the decade flashback as we celebrate 40 years of World's Strongest Man. And we're going to go to the 2000s now, and it was all about the rise of a Polish athlete by the name of the Dominator, called so for very good reason.
For the first 2 years of the new millennium, the Nordic dominance of the 90s continued. But there was a change in the wind, and it blew from the east. Mariusz Pudzianowski wasn't a giant amongst men, yet the Polish star's relatively small frame enabled him to shift through the gears with ease and rise above his rivals. In just 7 years, he powered to a record 5 titles, showing few signs of weakness. At times, he was untouchable. In West Virginia one rainy evening, he was almost caught, but still made history. The Dominator heralded a new era for the sport. If he was to be beaten, others would have to raise their game. In 2006, an American did just that, Phil Pfister, banging the drum as the first American winner in 23 years. And then in 2009, there was another changing of the guard. An athlete who would be as dominant as the pole made his first serious impact. Zydrunas Savickas from Lithuania won the first of his 4 titles that year. Also on the podium was an American who would play a vital role in the modern era. A new rivalry had arrived.
That rivalry's still going on, Danny. 2 men with 4 titles here at this World's Strongest Man, and of course, Pudzianowski's the man they're chasing with his 5.
Well, it's the next event, the bus pull. We've all pulled a bus before. It's much harder on telly. 25 metres to pull a 15-ton bus. Well, Van Staden only managed 18.28 metres, had to withdraw from the whole competition. He tore his calf. Then it was the turn of Nami. Well, he managed it in 51.14 seconds, but it took its toll. Then it was De Vaugn. 48.63 seconds, he managed it. He's the leader, but it had its effects. Now,
Representing Iceland,
the turn of Gunnarsson, who will have watched all that happening. Intimidating?
Oh, Gunnarsson, he's got the likes of Magnus Ver Magnusson coaching him, so he'll be well versed in what to do right now, and that's not slip around, try and get this up to speed as quickly as possible, and just keep the tension all the time on the rope and the towing rope, so the bus never slows down, especially at the end when it goes a little uphill, Danny.
Well, he's slightly off course, which might cost him a little bit. He's keeping low, keeping that rhythm going. And like you say, you don't want to stop, because once you've stopped, you've stopped. The bus must cross the line, just the front of the bus there.
Yeah, getting over that inertia is the difficult bit, and then just keeping the momentum. I think he's got just about
Look at
enough here.
this. Absolutely, it's going to be close, but it looks like Gunnarsson will do it. He does. 45.68 seconds. And he feels it.
Those legs full of lactic acid. The man just helping him out. He'll take a few minutes to recover from that, that's for sure. But he's in the lead.
And you were right, Colin. Looks like Gunnarsson is needing some help.
Yeah, he's just getting some oxygen off the doctors. That's very normal. Help him recover for the next event as Kieliszkowski gets this underway. Oh, a slip.
It is that explosive burst of power you always get from Kieliszkowski at the start of almost any event. Look how low he is keeping. That tension on the rope, but slipping ever so slightly.
I think it was 1988 when John Paul Sigmarsson just pulled so hard and then the rope snapped behind him and he fell on the pavement shouting, "Too much power!"
Up to 30 seconds now, 45.68. Kieliszkowski of Poland to beat.
He's going to win this.
Look at this speed.
Easily.
Well, that's how you do it. 38.51.
Well, win it so far anyway. We've still got the beast to come. Magnificent.
Time of 38.51.
Well, let's see
Representing Poland,
what Eddie
Mateusz
Hall can do to
Kieliszkowski.
answer that in a moment or two. But look at the technique here from Kieliszkowski.
Well, we saw that last year in the World's Strongest Man contest and the final. He keeps so low and uses all his body. If he hadn't slipped at the start and there again, that would have been even quicker.
Representing
Well, here he is, the
Great
beast.
Britain, Eddie
Just 29 years old. 6'3". Pity his mother during labour.
Probably a bit smaller back then, Danny.
Is that how it works? Here he goes. Britain's Eddie Hall. Sounding very much like a steam train.
Yeah, he wants to keep the oxygen coming in. He knows there'll be a big debt building up in his body, and he wants to try and keep the lactic acid to a minimum. Now, coming up towards the 20-second mark, he's already past halfway as Hall's got this up to a good speed.
Crowd favourite, it seems, as well here in Botswana. 25 seconds gone now, 38.51 to beat. Shows no signs of slowing, but has he done enough?
I think he might have. This is going to be tight.
Here we go. Eddie Hall from Britain, 34.76 seconds.
And it just wasn't that close in the end at all, Danny. That's almost 4 seconds there ahead of one of the best truck pullers in the world in Kieliszkowski. That's a big message to the others from Hall, and, well, he'll be gunning to try and be in top spot after 5 events in the heat, so then he doesn't have to do the 6th brutal last man standing event.
Eddie having a screamer there, finishing the course in a fairly unthinkable 34.76 seconds. Kieliszkowski's time, indeed, in second place would be a winner in most heats, while there's bad news for South Africa's Gerhard van Staden. With 5 men remaining then, Eddie has moved into first place by half a point from Gunnarsson. Kilifskovsky a further 2.5 points back in third place.
Eddie on top then, and good luck catching him, because next up here at the Bahurutsi Cultural Lodge, it's the deadlift. Now, Eddie is the only man in history to have successfully deadlifted a half-ton, 500 kilos. That was for max. This, 350 kilos, will be for reps, and the beast will be getting his paws on it next on World's Strongest Man. Welcome back, everyone, to World's Strongest Man in Botswana. I'm with the Suntwazi, one of the bushmen of the Kalahari. And if I was one of our competitors from Heat 4, I'd be feeling pretty bushed as well after everything they've been through so far. It all started with the load and drag, our first event. A big surprise here as Eddie Hall finished 4th and Kilifskovsky was all the way down in 6th. Maximum points taken by Ari Gunnarsson. But what a reversal in the second event, the log lift, as Kilifskovsky and Hall shared first place with 7 reps each, and Gunnarsson came in 3rd. Then came the bus pull, and this was pretty special. Gunnarsson set a blistering pace. Kilifskovsky was around 7 seconds faster, and then Eddie Hall stunned the crowd by recording the fastest time of any athlete at these heats. And that leaves Eddie in the lead in this group, but only half a point ahead of Ari Gunnarsson. Kilifskovsky with some work to do, 2.5 points further back.
Let's see how Eddie and the lads do in the deadlift, and bringing us the action at the Bahurutsi Cultural Lodge, the ever-dynamic duo Colin Bryce and Danny Wallace.
Thank you, James. Well, it's the deadlift. And you've got to really favour Eddie Hall for this one. 60 seconds to lift a weight of 350 kilos as many times as you can. Eddie, of course, managed half a ton not long ago. See how he does today. Nami managed just 2 reps. Up against Devon with just 1, 3 to go. Because, of course, Van Staden withdrew from the competition. Gunnarsson up first from Iceland. And he's off.
But if you think about it, Danny, most of these men have a personal best between 350 and 400 kilos. So this is 90, 95, maybe even 98% of their personal best. So it's just about doable for a couple of reps, 3 reps maybe. For Eddie Hall, this weight's only 70% of his personal best. So it's...
Well, he'll know that he wants to beat Eddie, but he wants to put some space between him and Kilifskovsky as well. He knows that this isn't Kilifskovsky's strongest event, but he needs to get a move on if he's going to do it.
Yes, Kilifskovsky's personal best in deadlift, only 380 kilos, so this 350, 2 reps, well, I don't know, Kilifskovsky's a fighter. I'd imagine he'd probably beat that. But for Gunnarsson, you know, this is actually pretty good. You think last year he was a virtual novice. He's only been doing strongman for a couple of years.
And again, this not happening in a cool air-conditioned gym.
No, it is not, no. And he's an Icelander, so probably used to much colder conditions than this.
Well, Kilifskovsky, as we've said, not his strongest event.
Yeah, definitely the Achilles heel for Kilifskovsky. He just has some lower back problems. He's actually had it figured out in the last year. One leg is slightly shorter than the other, and that was causing him all kinds of problems in his lower back. So perhaps he's fixed it.
Well, 2 reps to beat.
And what he does is he now does all kinds of exercises just to alleviate the stress from having one leg shorter, and indeed wearing insoles in one shoe. But not necessary here. There's number 3.
Takes the lead with 30 seconds to go. He seems to think that's enough for him for now. Now, is that the Eddie Hall effect? He knows he's done enough to do all right, but he knows he's not going to really beat Eddie on this. Is that what's happening?
Yes, and I still think he feels a lot of strain in his lower back, which is where he had all of his problems last year. And, you know, he wants to make it to the grand final. Even if it's in second place, he's maybe accepting that Eddie's going to beat him into first. He certainly expects to anyway.
Well, unless something goes very wrong here for Britain's Eddie Hall, question will be, will he play to this crowd, or will he save his energy?
I highly doubt it. I think Eddie Hall has come on leaps and bounds in professionalism, which is one of his perhaps weaker areas in the past. Not anymore. I think he takes the leaf out of Brian Shaw's book.
Well, making it look fairly easy there.
In fact, he's not even wasting any time at the top, showboating or taking his time. He wants to get through this with as little energy wasted as possible.
Well, he's done enough. He knows he's done enough to win that event.
Winner, right there.
4 reps from Eddie Hall. Perhaps later on we'll see a bit more showboating.
I mean, he's done the greatest strength feat arguably in history with 500 kilos. That is just incredibly light for him. It's the one event where he can really make the rest of them look like schoolboys. And 4 reps, I think he probably could have done 20 if he had to.
But he didn't.
No, he didn't. But if he makes the grand final, we'll get to see him doing max again.
350 kilos of steel, no big deal, as the deadlift king does enough to take maximum points. And very impressive too from Mateusz Kilewskowski, grabbing second. He's now just a point off second place overall as the top 3 begin to pull away. Eddie looking sharp on top, the Brit finishing third in last year's grand final. This year, he has something even more special in mind.
I've done what people consider to be impossible in the past. And one of those things was lifting half a ton off the floor. I was the first human being ever, and still am, to lift half a ton off the floor. Probably one of the most monumental strength occasions in human history. And that is what gave me the belief that I could win the World's Strongest Man one day. That was my flick switch moment. If I could pull off such an impossible feat in life, then why can't I win the World's Strongest Man? Last year, 2016, was a really tough year for me to take. You know, I came into that Worlds 100%, the strongest I've ever been, the fittest I've ever been. I was so prepared, so confident. And then the day before the final, I managed to rip my tendons off my finger and basically ruin my chances. Then I thought, if I were to walk away, I'd be an embarrassment. So I've got to give it a good shot and prove my stature, you know, and prove I can still mix it with the top one-handed. And I think I needed to do that to prove to myself to come back next year fully fit and hopefully win the World's Strongest Man. Going up against the giants of the world, you know, the Harford Joneses, the Brian Shaws, the 6'9", 6'10" giants, it's tough. And you know that those guys have got better genetics than you. You know, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're naturally heavier. The only way I can beat these guys is willpower. That's the only way. And that's the difference. It's the man that's willing to push the boundaries, the man that's willing to go to dark waters and not swim back. That's the man that will win.
Eddie Hall saying he knows he's going to win. Still got the bullion toss to go, though. 60 seconds to hoist these bars of gold that only increase in weight over a, well, pretty much nearly 16-foot wall. Devon managed just one. Nami, nothing at all. 3 men to go, starting with Kilewskowski. A man with just that incredible explosive power, attacks events. So I think we'll see him go at this pretty fast.
I think I called him a javelin thrower earlier. Here he is, a bullion thrower. And yes, absolutely right. Those long limbs of his and very explosive. As you just touched on, Danny, it's a great combination. This is very quick. Number 5, 18 seconds.
Look at this.
Good. Last time he's clipped it, remember, they get heavier and heavier. Last one's 25 kilos.
Yep, absolutely. It's roughly the same as throwing
Okay, keep on that one. Same
a giant otter or a European beaver over a semi-detached house.
Yes, indeed, Danny, that's quite a fact. I was thinking more like a sack of concrete, actually.
I think people relate more to throwing otters. But here we go. 10 seconds left.
He's getting tired, and it's very hard to recover. You need a good few minutes to get that explosive power back, I'm afraid. Once it's gone, It's definitely gone.
But look at that, 6 bars in 23.08 seconds for the pole.
He puts him in good stead for getting good points, and for the pole, well, does he stand much of a chance of beating Eddie Hall now and taking that top slot? Probably not. Hall should do well here and go through. Let's see what Gunnarsson can do first. There's so much jostling for position right now.
Especially bearing in mind the final event, last man standing. Well, look at the power there.
You know, the Icelanders are always very good at throwing, partly because they've adopted the Scottish Highland Games up there. There's a whole number of them, and they're caber tossing and
is that right?
Weight throwing. Absolutely right, yeah. In fact, Hapthor Bjornsson has the world record in the 56-pound weight for height, which is a Scottish implement, which is indeed 25 kilos.
Well, Gunnarsson has got the power. He's getting his angles wrong.
Yes, well done.
That was much better. 3 over now. Number 4, this is about 21 kilograms.
And he's got 6 to beat. I think he's going to manage 2 in the next 8 seconds.
To go, Harry.
Any animals 21 kilos, Daddy?
21 kilo animals. Well, that would be an American beaver, which is lighter than the European.
Good effort.
Well, there you go. 4 bars.
Harry.
In the bullion toss in 50.13 seconds.
Representing Great Britain, Eddie Hall.
So over to Eddie Hall, the leader after 4 events.
Ready.
He's worked very hard at his throwing, Eddie. And actually, he doesn't have to be quite so frantic here. He's going to be very deliberate. That's very deliberate. He stopped.
Really?
Well, that's put him into the grand final. He's going to be very professional here and not do a single bar more.
That's me.
Save energy, that's what it's all about. Ultimately, the history books will say who's won World's Strongest Man, not who showed off the most in the heats.
I suppose that gives me enough time to tell you that the world's heaviest beaver was nearly 50 kilos.
Gosh.
Eddie does the necessary, and so does Mateusz Kielewski. Bullion Gunnarsson down into second place for 6 vital points. And that means that while Hall goes straight through to the grand final, it's Kielewski who takes second from the Icelander thanks to that win in the decisive 5th event. And that could prove a massive advantage in the playoffs for the other qualifying spot. Coming up then, it is the raw drama of last man standing. 4 athletes, 1 Atlas stone, and a fight to the finish. We'll see who emerges to take that place in the finals next on the Coolgenics World's Strongest Man. Welcome back. 5 events gone, Eddie Hall is through, 4 athletes now facing a straight-up head-to-head battle for the heat's 1 remaining qualifying place. It is last man standing, and this is Danny and Colin.
Thank you, James. Yes, last man standing, a new event. Celebrating 40 years of World's Strongest Man. 1 stone is passed backwards and forwards over the bar. Has to be done in 10 seconds or less. Now, it's all based on the standings after the events. Nami will take on Devon. Whoever gives up is out. Whoever continues will take on Gunnarsson. Whoever wins that will take on Kielewski. Eddie Hall, of course, does not need to take part. He's in the lead, so...
Yes, this is very much an honours system now. Hall gets the honour of going all the way through to the grand final, doesn't have to take part. 5th overall, takes on 4th now, and that was Nami in 5th, served, if you like, to Double D, who then plopped it back again, and this just keeps on going. The 2 men at the back there looking nervous, probably hoping these 2 guys tire themselves out before they have to step in to a brutal game of it.
And it's a little bit about sportsmanship as well. They want to drop that into the square to give the other guy a fair chance. The time starts as soon as the stone hits the ground.
Nami's huffing and puffing already, looking a little green around the gills.
And it is a psychological battle as much as anything, taking a bit too long.
And he's staring down a 6'6" man as well. Derek Devaugn is very good at stones, those big long arms. No mistake there, though he is a little slow. Both men have to push it over as quick as possible. You're right, Danny, the time stops when it hits the floor on the other side, and that's key to remember.
Oh, Nami really slowing now. It is a psychological battle because they know even if they beat their opponent, now a fresh man is coming on. And they do have that advantage, don't they? But they have earned that advantage. That's the whole point.
Absolutely. I mean, they're ahead on points. In the old system, we would have just carried on Atlas stones. But now you've got a puncher's chance, at least, to come back from 4th or 5th position, or even 3rd position. Top 2, of course, make the grand final. Eddie already there.
Well, I'm not sure if Nami's going to make this next one.
No, me neither. I think this could be it. He's so slow. Oh! I think he probably wanted the whistle to go. He looks absolutely ill.
Devaugn now really struggling to get this up. The tacky going.
It's the first fluff we've seen.
And that's that.
Put it down. Put it down.
For Devaugn, has to put it down.
Out the area. Out the area.
Yeah, that was. But being replaced now, like you say, a fresh man. Nami looking anything but fresh. Does not want to continue, really.
I don't think he's going to last very long. And that suits Gunnarsson, because he's got a handful with Kieliszkowski coming in last and freshest. Oh,
just about pride now.
He's a hard man, Nami. Building log cabins is his business up in Estonia.
Well, that's it.
And even he has to give up.
So it means Kieliszkowski can attack this.
Well, Kieliszkowski's not a bad stone lifter. He's not one of the greats, that's for sure. But probably better than Gunnarsson. And Gunnarsson's already done 2 lifts, now 3 lifts.
Caught a glimpse of Nami in the background, who was suffering now. Looks to be okay. Gunnarsson needs to return this fast. It's just really answering each other's strength, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. Testing strength, endurance, and, of course, willpower. Who wants it the most?
Getting encouragement from Alexandra's girlfriend. Having an angry FaceTime chat.
Gunnarsson, back to you, Kieliszkowski, who is indeed talking to his girlfriend about something. I think perhaps he's run out of tacky already.
Oh, how long can they go on? Gunnarsson starting to show the strain.
And of course, he's done 2 more lifts, so fatigue likely to be a factor earlier for him. And look at Kieliszkowski, he is so fit, he just has run out of tacky. 1 slip and he could be in big trouble. Should I do it, he says. The girlfriend makes the calls.
He's waiting for that stone again. Answering back. Such strength, and also just that speed.
Looks easy enough to me. I don't think he has to worry too much about tacky. Gunnarsson, though, less height. He really needs it, and he's starting to get close to that time limit. Oh, he pens him in. There you go, straight back at you.
Absolutely. Nothing more discouraging than the other guy doing it with such ease.
Yes, indeed, and of course, the other guy doing it quickly just cuts your recovery time down as well, which is half the battle. But Kieliszkowski, a little slower there.
Just seems unshakable at this point. But Gunnarsson just getting lower, taking longer. Only about 5 seconds left now. The time limit's up.
2, 1.
And he knows it, that's it. Well, what a performance from Gunnarsson. And just look at that relief on Kieliszkowski's face. Delighted but terrifying girlfriend. And he's happy too.
Kieliszkowski, 2 WSM Grand Finals in a row, 2 appearances. Brilliant stuff. I mean, I thought for Gunnarsson, he too was much better this year, but beaten by the better man on the day. He's with SJ now.
Mateusz, you are the last man standing. How do you feel?
I am very happy. It was my dream. I want to fight with top 10 men from the world.
And that's exactly what you got. Well, congratulations. You are through to the grand final.
Thank you very much.
The pole is on a roll. Congratulations to Mateusz Kulawski, through to the final now. In both the years he's taken part in World's Strongest Man, and he'll join, of course, Eddie Hall there.
That leaves us with only 2 places to find in this year's grand finals, and those will be determined next time by Heat 5, which features British strongman legend Terry Hollands and also the return of the man who's won this 4 times, Zydrunas Savickas. We'll see you for that next time on World's Strongest Man.